Hello, everyone, and welcome to Facebook Live.
I read a little bit before the time, so we're just going to say hello and see who's joining us in the meantime. And hopefully everybody's up nice and early. For me, it's what time in the morning? Just before 6 o'clock. I normally sleep this time. So aloha from Hawaii. And Robin,
I
where
ha-
are you from? Tell them.
I'm from Philadelphia.
And so we've had some interesting experiences since last week with technology. Wasn't that interesting? Do you want to?
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody else is having this experience, but OMG, if it has electronics, it is not working in my world. In the last week and a half, I have had televisions that haven't worked, cable boxes that haven't worked, keyboards that haven't worked. It's just been telephones that are in and out. It has been crazy. The level of electromagnetic interference is something. So, all I can say is we must really be moving to a whole new dimension because it has been crazy getting out of this one.
Yeah, isn't that so interesting how we are affected um, on technology and anything mechanical when we go through big shifts, Robin? I must tell you, when I came to Hawaii, believe it or not, my Rolex broke. Now I have not one, but two watches. One is a Tesla watch, and it actually protects me from electromagnetic stuff happening. And I normally
Hmm,
break things actually. I
right.
walk past the photocopy and it goes on and off. And I'll go past the microwave and it goes on and off.
Okay.
So it protects me and it protects, my computer from me kind of thing. So I don't know what happens there. Emotional outburst and intensity. And the smartwatch helps me to measure my heart rate, my stress
Yes.
levels, my
Yes.
breathing,
Okay.
and it's fascinating to see like how little you sleep actually deeply at night, and then you wonder
Mm.
why you wake up tired and stuff like that. All those little things to yourself. Anyway, we're coming on early today because we're hoping that people will actually have a little bit of heads up
Mm.
before we start with the actual conversation, so you don't miss out too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Robert, so you're saying today the world is well and everything seems to be working well on your
Yes,
side?
it seems like after Saturday, we spent 2 hours with the latest cable guy, and he fixed it. I stood there, I watched him. It was working. He left. My mother comes in, turns on the television, starts talking to the remote, and it finds every channel but the one she's asking for. So we're like, what? So then I play with it. I watched him, so I reprogrammed and did the things he did, so it started working. It seems as if we're turning a corner. I mean, yesterday I just didn't do anything electronic. I tried to stay away from television as long as I could. I wasn't on the phone.
Mm.
I went riding my bicycle. I'm like, oh my God, I just have to get out of this energy. So today things are going well. Things are going well so far.
I wanted to say to you, last week, the whole session to me felt like calibration.
Hmm.
Although I set up everything, I prepared everything, I checked everything. Everybody who came on the in the session went ping, and today. I thought, well, you know what? If it happens, it happens. There's nothing else I can do about it. So I just completely let go. And yesterday, when I quickly went online, guess what happened? Immediately, this morning, well, immediately I found the spot where while you're in the session, you switch it off. And I was like, no, this is too easy. Everything
Oh.
felt so hard. Why is this so easy? And I actually just took a step back. People will notice I wasn't really on social media, but I
Mm.
just wanted to hold the space and lots of other little things going on, normal day to day stuff. And that's actually one of the things I want to bring up today. I want to talk about how we can't neglect our existing lives while we're tuning in and calibrating, because this is a big calibration space for us, right?
Yeah.
And we got to live the stuff we talk about. So it leads us almost like right into it's. It just seems to be so relevant, and it still makes me go.
Yeah,
It still brings us directly into the space of where we need to be and the stuff we're talking about.
right.
So,
Yeah,
um,
this is an amazing time to be alive. There is so much change that is happening. And if we can just anchor and center ourselves in the spirit within, it doesn't even matter what happens because you almost sound the same. You almost People have to really probe you to find out there's a problem. Because you're not so rocked emotionally if you can stand in that heart-wired space, if you can do what we've talked about in the last few sessions, and that is work through your emotional triggers that will allow you to just stand in the space even though the world is totally chaotic around you. Because if you stand in the heart-wired space, then the decisions being made are coming through you, not from you. You got that, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, I'm just playing with our little remotes here, and today it looks different. Who knows what that's about? So I just want to. There we go.
Hello.
Okay.
Welcome, Sharon.
Hello,
Hello,
Sharon.
Robin.
How are you?
Okay. Hi, Adele. How are you?
I am so good. I am so good.
Great.
We're just going to be muting everybody just so that we don't pick up extra background noise. Can you hear me clearly, Sharon?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. So we've made a little bit of an effort to see if we can improve today.
Okay.
We can always go forward. Hey, even if it's one step at a time.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So we're just really hacking away. We're hoping that people have a little bit more time. Sometimes the technology works with us, sometimes it doesn't. Hopefully, Facebook will tell them we are live, and hopefully, they will see the message to join us on Zoom. How did you find the Zoom call, Sharon? Was it easy?
Yes, it was very easy.
Okay, great.
Very
That's
easy.
what we want to hear today. Okay, and those who needs to join us will be here. So thank you very much. I'm going to put you on mute.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I think, Robin, if you're ready, you're welcome to start if you want.
Okay, well, I just want to welcome all of those that are on the Zoom call. And I do know a few others that are coming onto the Zoom call. And I
Okay.
want to welcome all of those that are joining us Facebook Live. If you've been following along with us, we're the Facebook group Heartwiring Women. And our group kind of started because Adele and I were just chatting away one day and said, we ought to tape this. These are great conversations. So we kind of started Heartwired, and it's just two life coaches, two different countries, two different cultures, actually two different continents coming together to talk to women about universal truths that we're all finding no matter where we live. And so that's the gist of what we're trying to put together is something that will allow women to have more ease and flow in their day as they stay connected to that heart space. So today, our conversation is liberate human potential, community in a new way for active heart-wired women. My name is Robin Johnson, and I'm one of your co-hosts. So many of you know my story already. Just grew up with my own sense of trauma like everyone else, product of a divorce early, always looking for how do we live in oneness and unity with one another. Like most people, you go out or external rather than deal with the internal. So what I started trying to do was achieve all kind of things that would make me feel better about who and what I was. Went to college, pursued excellence, graduated second in my class, went and got an MBA in Paris, an MA in London, just, life coaching, whatever it is, externally, I sought to achieve it. And when that didn't work, then I started going internally. So I started studying all the world's religions, traveled to 40 countries, and to make a long story short, yes, I understood intellectually a lot of things, but emotionally, I was still having trouble living what it was I thought was possible just by studying. So, what has ultimately happened is I documented my adventures in 2 books. The first one, Awakening of a Chocolate Mystic, and the second one, ETA to Oneness, A Journey to Spiritual Awakening. So, right now, I teach um, life coaching, oneness coaching, I like to call it, to individuals and to groups. And my website is www.eta2oneness.com. That's ETA, the number 2, the word oneness. So there is always another side to a dynamic duo. So I'm going to introduce you to my other co-host, Adele Green.
Thank you, Robin. It's always fascinating for me to listen to educated people speaking. I love it. I've always had a love of it. So most of you know me as Adele Green. I actually right now bring my gift to the world in ways like this, where it's action from inspired thoughts, and about before this 12 years I've been a coach with my own practice full time, and in since January I have embarked on a brand new venture with my husband, which is a business enterprise of a lifetime for us. And at this ripe stage of my life, to go to the opposite end of the world and start something brand new kind of feels like the times we are in, isn't it, Robin?
Mm.
Yeah, so I've done many things and I don't want to blabber on about that. If you want to know more about the blogs on the platforms that I've created and the leadership platforms, or my relationship book and other things, you're welcome to visit my website, adele-green.com. And if you listen to the end of the conversation, I will be sharing something with you guys that is free and that will be really useful and maybe even relevant to today, if that's something that you'd be interested in, but I'm not going to tell you until the end. So far, I just want to say to the people who are on the call with us, thank you so much for being on time. Thank you for being here. So Kanisha, Sharon, and Shirley, you guys, really, we appreciate it very much. You know, at the end of the day, we can't do these things without you joining us. It makes it easier for us to hold the energy. So thank you
Mhm.
so very much. Everybody's muted. If we need to clarify anything, if you ask any questions, feel free to put them in the group and then we will get to them before the end. And with that, I'm going to hand over to my co-host. Robin, would you like to introduce our topic?
Okay, so our topic for today is Liberate Human Potential, Community in a New Way for Active Heartwired Women. As we said before on our previous calls, women are naturally anchored into feminine energy. We're hardwired for love, for compassion, for patience, for collaboration. However, as many of you know, today's world is running more on a masculine energy vibration, which is more confrontational, aggressive, individualistic, combative. To create the world that is emerging, it's actually working well for women because that world needs more of the feminine energy. It needs more of the collaboration, and many of the writers are talking about that now. In order to move and live in that space, many of us may need a new worldview. As Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So, what do we mean by a new worldview? And how is that helpful in liberating human potential? So, we must begin to move away from the thinking where we're seeing everything as separate and everybody as separate from ourselves. Even the scientists are beginning to say that nothing in the material world is separate. So, in a recent book, Our Moment of Choice, 2 authors, Dr. Eben Alexander and Karen Newell, state as more of us awaken, to this refreshing worldview, our so-called reality can be seen more as the dreaming of the one mind, with each of our individual perspectives more akin to a facet on the surface of the gem of the one mind. They go on to say, we all seem to be connected through the binding force of pure, unconditional love. By actively cultivating feelings of love and compassion, we demonstrate the ultimate golden rule, where generating love from within serves to help others as the heart's electromagnetic field naturally radiates that energy to the world at large. They conclude by saying, by developing a richer relationship with our more expanded consciousness through our inner world, we come to realize that all is well, that in fact, it's a win-win situation that honors love, compassion, and kindness in our dealings with others. Given this perspective, it seems to me that women are hardwired for this new emerging world. So Adele, would you like to share your thoughts about liberate human potential in this new way of community?
Uh, yes, so yeah, it really is true. Everybody knows love is what makes the world go round. We know that because we wired for it. That is not the new part. It's the how to do it and express it. That's the interesting part. So Albert Einstein also said, if you can imagine it, it exists somewhere. And what a lot of people don't know about him, although he was incredibly bright person and his brain was very good at processing, he was probably one of the most intelligent people that we're aware of. He pulled so many of his ideas and concepts of the dream space, you know. So you wonder how much of it got whispered into his ear and what actually came from him. And
Right.
that's what we're doing now. We're dreaming. We are dreaming our new potential into being and
Mhm.
unlocking that process. And as we are embodying it, it's becoming clearer to us. And that's the kind of stuff we're sharing. We're sharing where we are and what we think we can grasp. So yeah, um, I think for me, Robin, everything that you said holds true, and it's amazing that's where we are. I am very curious to know um, what more you want to share about it before I go into something that I prepared to share.
Okay, well, I find it fascinating for me that this discussion is coming up now in many ways. I guess it's being brought to my awareness that others are having the same thoughts. I'm having lots of confirmation because I wrote in my book in 2014, ETA to Oneness, I talked about a new way of being. And that we must anchor this new way of being. And the new way of being is what is being discussed now. That is to really be within yourself, anchored in yourself, loving yourself, but letting that love transition, transfer to others. So there's no separation between you and another person. So what is good for you is good for someone else. And when someone else is achieving or making something happen, it feels like it's also happening to you in a good way. And when something is not happening in a good way for someone, it feels like that's also not happening in a good way for you too. There's not this separation. I called it a new way of being. So I'm just going to read like one quote from my book about if we live in that space, we don't have to fear that helping others will take away from helping ourselves. And I think a lot of us are trained to believe in the separateness of one another. And in this part of the book, it's called Needs Effortlessly Met. In this new way of being, you must know for sure your needs will be effortlessly met as you seek to meet the needs of others. You will feel loved as you seek to share love with others. You will feel supported as you seek to support others. Our current spiritual path too often on our current spiritual path, too many leaders are focusing much attention on setting your intentions, envisioning your goals, proceeding with action steps. If you think about it, this may be an old way to focus so much on on you that you cannot be on the road to oneness. The way to oneness requires you to be in right relationships with others. It's really not all about us. We're coming out of that period of time in our culture when if I'm okay, the world's okay. We've got to operate from that place. If I'm okay, then I've got to make sure the world's okay. And so that's where I am, Adele. That's what the new culture, the readings are coming out. That's what they're telling us, because if we don't move into this place where each of us contributes to the whole, creating this new synergy, then we are putting ourselves at risk as a whole world community. We've got to
Mm.
do a different job. We've got to live from a new world space. We've got to really work in community for us to be where we need to be. So
Rob,
Adele, you want to chime in on that a little bit?
yes. So, when did you write your first book?
2011 was the first one. 2014 was the second.
Okay. So I just want to say this feels very important. In 2011, when you brought out your first book, I wrote my book in 2012 and
Mm,
took a year to publish it because, I had my own issues to deal with sharing so much personal stuff. And then your book ETA to Oneness came out 2014, and I published for the second time in 2014. And since then, I've not published anything. I've written, but I've not published anything. And it never felt like I needed to publish anything. I didn't have that compelling sense of needing to publish it, not a book anyway. And I have to wonder about whether we were ready. And
mm,
at the time, Spirit said to me, I woke up from a dream when we were on holiday, and Spirit said to me, don't worry about it. When people just have the book, then they already have access to the vibration.
mhm.
And people will not be ready for the book until 2021. Now, isn't that fascinating that now is almost 2021, and all of a sudden people are starting to say things all over the place? And you and I both felt the incredible uh, urge and inspiration to be starting to share this, not knowing what we're doing, or there's no sense or purpose for what we're doing, other than to spark people, right? To also
Mm,
come together. But something else I wanted to say that I talked about in my book, although it's on a different topic, it's on relationships. It's like another level of relationship book because it doesn't talk to how do you communicate to resolve conflict with your partner. It's about reflection. It's about the fact that your relationship is the best space for you to see yourself. Now, that talks to what you're talking about because it talks about the way that we are connected. And
mm,
for me, it became so abundantly clear because I learned who I am in the world through my relationships. And it became so abundantly clear to me that I am not separate from my partner because
mm,
that's what Spirit showed me. That was the big message of the book, behind all this stuff that we project into the world so that we have triggers, so that we can discover what our gifts are. All these things is just a build up. But the whole point of the book is this is how we are connected. We are not separate from our partners. And once we discover that we don't have to leave them, we don't have to divorce them, we don't have to do anything. We just have to learn to accept ourselves more. Hence, we become more inclusive. So I just find the ironies, it's fascinating. And I mean, even this book Robin talks about one moment of choice is other people who are all authors in their own rights and have been for a very long time publishing many of their own works are all starting to speak the same language. And that was the cumulative purpose of the book. So, and the message of the book, and that's what we're talking about because they had this call to action. Now is the time for community, and this is what we're talking about. So, I believe that our life events lead us to discover our unique gifts. whatever that is for you. And it's unique and different for everybody. And we get there in a different way. But once you've discovered what this gift is for you, you can use that, and you are meant to use that in your community. So in part one, we talked about the emotional healing, how much we need to be able to put, how much we need to be able to participate with it in communities. And we also mentioned why it is so important to take our preferences out of the how we do it and then participate with making a much bigger difference. Now, the moment you participate, you're already going to be contributing, but the quality of your participation is going to depend on how well you have been working on your emotional healing. So today, part two is about how we all contribute together and why we do it together. So to evolve us as humanity, at this time, we need to learn from what little we know of science. And again, I'm coming back to that book because Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden came from a place, and you must know who they are. They've published many books between them, and they have a big voice out there. But they are both coming from a place of measuring science when they say that we need to create a new community with individuals to work together as a whole organism. And I'm going to say it again, as a whole organism, to unlock energy, harmony, and new possibilities for our human civilization to survive. And that's where we are now with the climate change, the levels of challenges that the world face. We overpopulated, we don't have enough resources, we have all these million and 10 things going on. We are challenged with our economy. And if you want to follow more of their arguments, which I'm not going to repeat here, go and look in the support unit of Heartwiring. One of the unit sections, the last one, we actually create a link to this book where you can access it. What we want to address here today is how that affects us directly. How is it relevant in our lives, and how can we now show up with our gifts to contribute in a new way of living together? How do we lead? How do we share? How do we interpret? And how does that help humanity exactly? So, our gifts is our unique way how we can contribute when we show up with them in our direct environments without distortion, and then we can evolve. And I just want to say that one more time because that is the essence of my message. When we show up with our gifts that is unique to each of us, it needs all of us in our direct environments without distortion, we can contribute to the evolution of humanity. That means your decisions, whether you want to participate in something or not, is made from a place that says, I contribute for my benefit, but I also contribute for the benefit of the community. So, will my decision, if I say yes, lead to that? Yes or no? Or in the past, we would have said, how does this benefit me so that there's equal energy of sharing, and it's literally an energetic transaction. So we're taking this to another level. So it's not saying it mustn't benefit you, because then you're missing the point. It's not about giving until you're exhausted. It's about how it benefits you, that win-win situation, and how it will specifically benefit your direct community. When you consider your leadership style, make it more inclusive rather than directive. A lot of us have grown up with authorities that is, you will do, you will be seen and not heard kind of setup, and we feel unheard and we feel unseen, and this is what's driven us into our careers and so many of the behaviors and distortions that we've developed to cope with the fact that we have this incredible urge. And so many men would come to me and say, like, why does my wife not feel seen and heard? What is that all about? It's a soul desire. It comes from deep inside us, and it comes from this space because our leadership styles that we are part of, that we buy into, and that we share ourselves must be inclusive. And it is about seeing and hearing everybody. So when somebody speaks to you, listen a little bit longer. It will relieve their emotions because they might not be at the emotional healing level that you are. So it relieves the pressure for them. And when you allow other people to also participate in the leading process, then it relieves the pressure off you. And you don't have to be the one to give all the effort. And then when do what you want people to do before you expect it from them. And that's a biggie, guys, because we need to walk our talk instead of just talking about things. Gandhi said, be the solution that you seek. And this is what he was talking about. Our words will be filled by integrity rather than just be words expecting things from other people. That's when we start to teach by doing. We are not teaching by our words. And then we show up authentically. The set of values that support the service that you bring becomes the new backbone for communities. And that's why we need to come together now and create communities, because these communities will create new systems. And that'll be the foundation for participation because they're supported by our hearts. And that comes back to heart wiring, what we are wired for. So at the moment, many things in the world are falling apart. And that is because those value sets are no longer needed in the world in the way we need to live in the world if we want to survive. We need to find the balance between our inner feminine and our projected masculine approaches to life. I'm not going to go into this in much detail because I explained it through my entire book. And when you're talking about masculine energy, you're talking about the actions. Like if I speak louder in the mic like this, then I'm projecting my voice. But if I speak very softly, chances are I'm probably in my feminine, right? Doesn't mean that I am. It also means that my throat chakra can be blocked, but there's a better chance that I'm coming from an inspired space and I'm deep within myself when I connect with my community. So but we need to find the balance between the two so that when we deliver a message, it is actually heard. And when we act with feeling without the distortions of unhealed trauma at the time when we are required to be brave, honest, or soft, that's when we're going to hit the bullseye. So some people who act only on inspiration neglect their responsibilities and they get lost sometimes in the dark night of their soul in their journey. And I'm mentioning this because they do hear voices and they do act on those voices. But when you are not in touch with your direct community, then you lose touch with what you're actually needing to do with it. And that happens to a lot of people. And the messages are still distorted, but they're not distorted because they're not listening to a voice, but they might not be questioning that voice. And then um, on the other side of it, when we build two strong stories around these deep soul messages at the times when we receive them, for example, if I just keep building my career around this book that I wrote so many years ago, then I'm going to lose touch with my reality as well. And that's not useful. So it really is about finding that balance and staying within the balance. So the gift from our unique trauma allow us to feel whole, create new roles to engage in, and prepare us for what is coming. Emotional healing helps us to stop blaming others for our own soul choices that we made for this life, because we made those choices so that we can be prepared, so that we can discover our unique gifts through this body and this personality and access that because we are in the now. And all of this will make a difference when we use it and participate. And it takes all the pieces of the puzzle. So never think that what you need to do is too small or even be scared because you think it's too big. At the right time, you'll be activating and your heart will be wired with everybody else. And you don't know what you're sparking with other people when you connect and participate. The systems around us right now are unraveling because they are built on those values that no longer make sense. So I want to tell you what I think is required. And that is, it takes courage. It's going to take conscious moments. It's going to need future thinkers, trend spotters, raw emotions, naked honesty, and discretion to know when is it time to stand up and speak or when to let the moment go by because the intensity is too high and you would better off to whisper later softly in somebody's ear from a loving heart. Because it's not always about standing up and speaking up. Sometimes it's about holding the space and demonstrating the very action that you want to explain to people. Guys, now more than ever, we need empaths, hypersensitive souls who can hear the message of spirit and soul deep wisdom. That is what is called for. This is the next level of participation and cooperation. Together, our intentions and state of mind forms the energetic blueprint for our new souls to feel safe enough to bring their gifts and still be born into this world, because we will hold that level of consciousness that makes it safe for them. Then our generation and the next generation can take the next step and form the next level of community, and the next and the next. When we try too hard to hold on to the new things that we're trying to create, but we also grasping on the old, on the strings of the existing systems, that's when it's going to lead to overwhelm. That's when it's going to feel like it's too much. Like, for example, last week, in the middle of the talk that we had, I was all over the place. My thoughts were all over the place. I wasn't even talking about the stuff that Robin and I spoke about because I couldn't even connect to them. I was a little bit overwhelmed in the situation. I was trying to get the tech stuff done, and I was trying to talk about what my heart was telling me. And in the process, I didn't follow the script. And it's not about reading what I wrote down, but that's why I wrote it all down today. It's about the fact that those are the moments when we try to do the new and the old. It takes too much effort, and we're going to break down. Our internal systems are going to break down. So we cannot expect ourselves to hold on. This time, I let go of everything. I didn't post on social media much. I just said, you know what, Spirit, I'm just going to show up. I have no idea what's going to happen. And that's okay now. It's okay. And guess what? I showed up. I managed to mute everybody. We have got no pings today. Robin's keyboard's working, and the world is well. And I can even read off my notes. And hopefully you can still connect to the message so that I can deliver what we plan to. So therefore, we look to discretion that are wired in our hearts, and we learn to trust it. As women, we hold the serenity, the courage, and the wisdom where we know who we are and where we belong. Our lives will be lived with meaning and purpose. Being spirit led, we will do less, but more of what matters, because this will become clearer and more obvious to us and to those around us. So, when you speak up, you will be drawn to others like you, and they will be drawn to you, and you will create new projects, just like this one, to influence those around you to also see their projects clearer so that they know where their inspired action is leading them next. Some will start the journey but lose touch with their inner feminine and get lost in the dark night of the soul, like I mentioned. But spirit led means that we includes taking responsibility for our existing lives. Okay, so it's not a witch hunt to distract you from your community, but rather make you a more important player and more engaged. So if you want to teach, make sure that you practice that in your own life and do it in a way that takes care of you and your community needs when you make those decisions. So we answer the question with every decision that we make. And the decision is going to be, am I doing this for the community if I say yes now and for me? And will I also take care of my responsibilities equally? So when it becomes too much, take a step back and regroup and check it with your heart. Align with equal energy in that moment and use your discretion to say no if that is in your heart. That's a hard thing for me. Robin knows. I think the last time we had a conversation, she was saying to me, you have to go say no now. This is your homework. So, and for some of us, it's asking for help. It's a different thing for everybody, but that'll move you to the next step where you can own that in your body. And that's the space and the state of mind that we have to hold sacred. So guard your state of mind until there is enough to join you. And that honors the value system for the sustainability of the type of community that can lead us to evolution for humanity. So we are forming a new skin around us, which will help us to become a new kind of humanity where individuals together are more than the sum of its part, bound by heart wiring. We will soon be able to move together as one mind in synergy with one heart, and maybe even as one organism system. And that's where my long story ends. Robin, final thoughts before we open for questions. What happened to you? Hold on. Where are you? I can't hear you. Hold on. Oh, we got a
Okay.
technical glitch. There you
Thank
are.
you. That was me and my technology. I'm still having issues. Well, thank you, Adele, for sharing that. You said a lot, but what I heard and what I think everybody will know to be important is we have an emerging world coming. You must live in your truth. You must use your gift, but you must use your gift beyond just for yourself. Your gift is now something that will radiate out and provide support for all of those around you. And as you do that, you will draw more people into the community where you are, or you'll be pulled into the community where they are. This is needed, this is necessary because our current systems are breaking down. They're breaking down because it's based on too much individualism, too much exceptionalism, too much exploitation, too much domination. And that is not the way of nature. All of the scientists are studying now that Darwin and Newton and a few of the original scientists that the Western models are built on, they were incorrect in their assessment. The natural world operates on cooperation. And so all of us now have to begin to bring our gifts to a larger, broader community so that we can create the synergy, which is what Adele was also talking about.
Robin, can I
So I
just
think I think it would be great to just have some questions from our audience, and to see what's on their minds and to see if there's anything that we can share with them and they can share with us that continues to create community. In the new community, there are no leaders. Everybody contributes their gifts. Everybody learns from everybody. That is what we're talking about in terms of a new way of being, and that everybody benefits from everybody else's gifts. So that's my
Robin,
thought, Adele.
that's absolutely true. I want to maybe just add one thing. You know, there's a what's happening in science right now is absolutely fascinating because they are not saying those guys are wrong. They are saying the time period um, that's relevant since they started calling what they're doing science, you know, the way that they're trying to solve the problems in the world has been too short a period. So
Mm,
when Bruce and Greg were talking about um, from a scientific perspective, they were saying what they know for the period that they've been measuring and making the assessments from has been too short. The world's been around for much longer. And if you consider the additional evidence, which is not mainstream stuff,
mhm,
then they're saying, wow, we don't know much at all. But this
mhm,
we do know, which is why they're saying we will be the next level is to form communities which will operate like entire one unit organisms. And this
mhm,
is what the community is about. So this is the next level where we are and why it's so important. There's another thing I just want to share. You know, we, because we come from the world in a space of I have to do it for myself, especially as women, as a community. We've literally been coming through. Initially, we were brought up in a space of I am submissive and, you know, I follow the leader kind of setup. And then we're growing out of that. We get votes. You know, we're becoming independent. We're becoming our learned people. We are becoming our own communities. We're becoming leaders in our individual careers. Now is not the time to say, I can do this by myself. Now is the time to say, this is why it's the next level. We are going to be doing this together. And the reason this is so important right now is the same of what's happening with what they know about science. So, see, I'm getting excited. So the photocopier behind me is starting to act out. I don't know if you heard that thing is just doing its own thing. So what's happening is as individuals, we are now grown as far as we can grow. We
mhm,
are not meant to be doing everything ourselves. It's going to make us feel triggered and overwhelmed. So the moment you feel those things, understand that these are the little signals to tell you, you know what? Start making yourself visible so that people can be drawn to you. And what I wanted to say is we are used to saying, this is what needs to happen next. So everybody follows me and let me show you how. Okay. What we are doing now is we are saying, this is what I have to offer.
mhm,
And other people will say, you know what? I might be able to do something with you. Let's see where that goes. And that's the kind of spaces that we need to be open for and that we need to listen to. And how you figure out what that is, because I'm noticing we don't have any questions coming up. So I want to encourage you guys to think about it like this. Do you know what your life story is? A lot of us in this field have been working with this for a long time and we think we got it all figured out. Do you know what the traumatic events have been trying to tell you to figure out? That will lead you to your gift. When you know what your gift is, the next stage is to look at it from the emotional healing perspective and see where you still need to close the gaps so that you can show up in a community at this level, which we've been discussing today. So that's the kind of process you want to follow to be on track right now with everybody else that wants to plug into you. And when you show up and you start speaking with that language, it's not the words, then you will be able to start connecting to those people because they will find you. And I mean that. Since Robin and I started talking, people have been reaching out to us. Will you
Mhm.
come on my show? I mean, like, I don't even advertise the stuff on LinkedIn. From all over, people have been highlighting, I need to talk about this. I need to get involved in this. And I'm thinking, where am I going to fit that in my schedule right now? So Spirit is saying, you know, people are drawn to you because something is happening that you're doing that's creating a flow which will create the next level, and that'll happen to for all of you.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we've
So we have a question from Rochelle. So if we can unmute Rochelle and she can kind of share.
Michelle.
Hi, everybody.
Oh,
Thank
Michelle,
you.
Rochelle, sorry. Hi.
That's okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
clearly.
Okay. I got a question. It may be a big question or not. I don't know. But I'm doing something for a year now. I'm doing a webcast. I was picked up from a radio station because I had the most views. I do Facebook streaming twice a week. I'm doing a workshop now, and I still feel I have such a strong message, and I know that people have come to me. I just don't know how much longer I can continue to do this and not feel that I'm being supported financially. And I love what I do. And I got to tell you, I'm fabulous at what I do. I know I am. I know the wisdom that I've had and what I've gone through in 43 years. I'm only 50, but I lied. Um, and so, when do you know if you love something, but you're not seeing the accolades of your work, and everybody's saying how great? When do you know that it's time to either leave it or shift it, which I don't know. So I just want to get some clarity about this.
Robin, do you
Now,
want to?
Rochelle is my friend. We have these conversations all the time, so she needs a new perspective. So I'm going to give this one to you, Adele.
Okay. So, Rochelle, um, I'm going to tell you what I went through last year. I'm going to give you the example, and then I'm going to ask you some questions if that's okay. And then you can
Yep.
answer them for us, and maybe you'll come to your own conclusion. So, for 12 years, I had a practice full time, and I never really had loads and loads of people going through my practice. And over time, I ticked the boxes. I had award winning blog. I had podcasts with, I think, almost 500,000 downloads by now, and it's all over the place. And it was pre recorded and edited and very, very successful. Probably took the least amount of effort of all the things I did try to, actually put out there in the world. And of course, my books, and I've had TV interviews, and I could tick the boxes. Before I left South Africa last year, I was even nominated for a TED Talk, and I couldn't figure out why if my practice is so acknowledged and respected, and I was seen as a leader by my own peers, why was I never that successful? And eventually I veered on the thing that maybe that is not a career for people to have financial abundance. It went that far for me. And I thought maybe people were not being truthful. So I spent a lot of last year purely focusing on the financial aspect of my business, because I thought, well, success has many faces, and I would really like to be financially successful. And then, so what ended up changing everything for me was this. And it comes back to what I talked about today when I said we can't neglect our responsibilities. I worked with somebody who helped me specifically to focus on the finances of my business. In fact, I did two different things. I worked with somebody that I was led to, it was very spirit led, on my coaching practice itself. Oh, listen to my voice, how interesting. I have resistance to speak about this. So, um, I did that for a few months, and then all of a sudden I couldn't feel resonance anymore. I don't know if something shifted in the person's vibration or if I got what I needed to, but I joined an academy. I was meant to be part of it for a year, and then all of a sudden my husband and I came on holiday in Hawaii. We found this business that we wanted to buy, and we wanted to live here. And that, of course, was a massive impact on my coaching practice, which I have been dedicated to for many, many years. This is my life's work. And, what I'm putting out there in the world, that's what I'm leaving behind. And the message of that. And I was, and then at the next level was I found somebody who said something that resonated deeply with me. And all she did, she had a day job. And then on the side, she was actually teaching people how to align financially. And she was talking about your relationship with money. And she said things that triggered me deeply. And this was the next step for me, because first I had to learn to say, I love money, because that was never my thing. I've never been driven by money. It's just always been really easy for me to access, except the last few years of my life. Kind of felt like the dark night of money. And then, because I believe that what is really inside of me will be reflected in my external world, I couldn't understand why the finance didn't flow in my practice. Money came to me, but in other ways. So when I did this other alignment course with this other person, what I discovered is that my original reason for starting my practice was never to be financially lucrative. I did it because I was at that moment in a relationship, but this was with my ex, where I needed to have something that was mine as an independent woman. So that's why I started my practice, that I could work around my family time. And more importantly, although I wanted to change the vibration of the world, I very much wanted to also be able to work on myself without looking like a crazy nut. Because the people in my world were the family that I was in would have frowned if I had to stand on stage and talk about this nonsense that I believed in. It did not fit any of the models that I lived in. It was a very old way of thinking. It was a very, I don't want to say anything that will sound biased, but I was living in the perfect suburb. I had the perfect amount of kids. I had the perfect body, the perfect life, the perfect everything. I was not allowed to be unhappy about anything. And deeply inside of me, I was unhappy. So I started to create a business where I could spend all the time in the world that I needed to work on myself without people saying I'm a crazy nut. And that was the original intention for my business. So once I discovered that, it changed everything. So do you know what this woman guided me to do, or what she said to me? She said something I've been feeling for a really long time. She said, let it go. Let it go. And I thought, no, I'm too heavily invested in this. I mean, if you look at my website, there are over 800 pages there. I spent so much time putting everything that I know, spirit led, to make it visible for the world, that I just couldn't let go of everything. But I did. And the funny thing is, the more I did that, the more my husband and I started printing money. And all these things, these affirmations I did, all these things, all of a sudden started to show results. So I actually want to see your face while I'm talking, because I want to see what's registering for you, Rochelle, and what's not registering. Because I want to ask you some fundamental questions, like when you started doing what you're doing in 2015, what was your original intention? When you did it, did you do it to be financially abundant? Because if you didn't, you need to reach a point now where you start to align what you're doing for financial abundance for yourself. And then all those things that are in the gaps, all those things that need to be healed, to need to be let go of, or for you to, whatever it is that you need to do to connect more with that, those are the things that need to become to the forefront of your business. And you need to make sure that you tick all the boxes for those things to become completely aligned. This is the stuff I was working with women just before I actually stopped my coaching. I was actually ready to launch a brand new thing when Spirit said to me, no, let go. I'm like, what? Let go? How can I let go? I learned all the stuff. It's with everything to me, Runner. Spirit said, let go. But I listened. And when I listened, that's when the magic happened. And it's never just one little thing. So, it's like a book doesn't write itself overnight. I wrote my book in a week, but I spent a lifetime to be able to have the filters that could produce the book so that I could put the right words on paper. So, Rochelle, can I ask you some questions?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know when you created all of these different things that you are doing with so much joy, what your original intention was? Can you tell me?
Doing what I'm doing now presently.
Well, you said you started the work that you're doing now, your broadcasting work,
Right.
right? On the different platforms in 2015. How did it start? Why did you start it?
Because I think for me is I love the work I do. And when I was out there, it was like for me a freedom of being able to share because a belief of mine many years ago, and it creeps in, is that I'm stupid. So the fact that I could make a mistake and feel okay about it because I'm not judging myself. And if they judge me, they judge me. So I enjoy it. I really do. And even with the book I just finished, I can't wait to, it's a memoir. So I can't wait to share it to show people that no matter what we do and no matter where we are in this world, if we are willing to be open to working through our issues, the world is our oyster. So I just love this kind of thing. I do. But when you said something about when I first started, which is in 20, when was it? I started coaching with Debbie Ford. It was 2011, 20 some. It was a long time, over 20 years ago. 2001.
Okay.
So it's like I worked through a lot, and even the work we do is very different. It's very deep work. And I
Yes.
got to see not everybody is willing to look at themselves. And
Yes.
that's where the rubber hit the road.
Yes. So, okay. So tell me more about, so I completely hear you when you say there's sharing and the openness is a big joy for you. And you absolutely believe that with all your heart. And I can feel that, I can resonate with that. So the question then becomes, when you originally started this work, the intention in it was what exactly? To share it? To do what?
Well, it was to teach it.
Okay.
Basically, it was to teach it.
Okay. So I'm going to say something else to you. When we are women of resources, we often do something and start something at a time when it is easy for us to do. The more we get into this, the more we discover to cross the T's and to dot the I's takes a lot of effort, and it becomes,
Mhm.
you know, love made visible, which is our work, right? And then at one point, we're starting to feel, where is the exchange? And
Mhm.
it's not that you want to be richer or you're driven by money or anything like that. It's just that you need to see the abundance flow, because that's one of the markers. And then you ask the questions you are asking now. But if there's something else in the woodworks when it was originally created, that often, because mine was very subtle, you know, for me it was like a mind-boggling moment when I realized, wow, I started this business actually to not look like a nutter to everybody else. Well, I was asking these deep questions of myself, and I felt very misunderstood by the world. And if that was the principle, even hidden in there, of why I started my business, that is what blocks my flow of abundance.
Mm.
So what I realized at the time was, I will let it go. It doesn't mean I will never do it again, but I needed to completely let go of all of it. And I knew that if I show up again as a coach, it will be coming from a different place. So some women who don't come from resources from the word get go are very clear. I'm doing this, and I'm going to have an abundant business, and I'm going to make it grow, and it's going to be successful. And they put the principles of money, like any business, into their practice from the word get go. Now, the other challenge that you have is you are also working with a new kind of system. Online broadcasting is very different. It's like when you publish your own book. You know, before, the world was controlled by maybe so many big publishers, and they are the gatekeepers. Publishing is open, like, you know, like broadcasting is open now. I mean, what we're doing now is broadcasting
Right.
on a public forum. So the systems have not yet adjusted to the community to have the resources to fill our pockets in the same way that the old systems created it. And comes from a different place. It comes from a different place that said, you know, pay what you can, pay if you want to. How many new courses with new thought leaders do you do today? And they give you three options to pay. Do you want to pay little, a lot, or whatever? And it absolutely allows that person to come from their value system. And most people will just go for the cheaper option because, you know, they do too many things, and that's their resource level, and that's what they participate with. So if you want to align yourself financially, you need to make it front end focus in your business, and you need to find a way to align that, your own financial abundance values, with your business on every level. That's what I had to do, and that's when I discovered there isn't a match for my system because of the original intention in the woodworks, and I let it go. As hard as it was for me, I'm not saying that's what you must do. I'm asking you to look at what is in the woodwork there. Is there anything that was anything else than something that's completely aligned with, I want to have this successful broadcasting business? Because if you want to make money, it needs to operate like a business. And I'm not saying an old school business, I'm talking about a new way of business. What
Well,
comes up?
there are two things. I want to do more group coaching because I don't want to do one-on-ones that much because it's tiring after a while of doing it so many years. So I like the group, I like the energy. So I'm in a different place now with that because of the workshop I'm going to be doing. Um, but what keeps on showing up for me, and maybe that's God, maybe that's what needs to be looked at because I've gone through it so many times, is that I came from financial struggle with my whole life.
Okay.
My family, my ex-husband, all of it. And my intention was that this was my intention many years ago, I'm going to be able to support myself. That was one of the things I wanted to be able to do. But perhaps because of the struggle and then the intention of being able to take care of myself, because when I got married, I wanted someone to take care of me. So I had to go through that big transition. So now that I have been taking care of myself financially, it's like, okay, so is it the struggle? Is it just letting go of everything and walking away? I don't know.
Okay. So before you're ready to make that decision, you need to, I just want to give you a tool, something to work on.
Okay,
Did you listen to, well, you did listen to last week's session, you were part of it. Did you download the affirmations?
I just did today.
Okay. So
I just,
what you want to do is you want to read the affirmation. You want to connect deeply in your heart with that, with one at a time. And you want to say, does it resonate? And if it doesn't resonate, you want to mark it. Okay. So it's like the ones who don't resonate, you want to put in your own little toolkit and you want to go to them often. Okay.
mhm,
Because, and you can even work with them one at a time because it'll help you to come into that consciousness level of money, and allowing the gremlins to come out the woodwork. So the moment we give permission to heal, okay, when we do alignment with money or anything else, spirit will give us that very situation. Now, when I did it in a safe space where I was in a buddy system with other ladies who were going through the same thing at the same time. And I have to tell you, that stuff hit deep for me. I had to drag my ex back to court. And I hate courts. I hate everything about the old system. Like, you have no idea. It was the most miserable thing I could think of. For years, I've been agreeing to absolutely everything and compromise my soul to not be dragged through courts. And I don't want to go to the extent of what I compromised. So I had to go back to court and I had to look at every single thing in my life that had any form of relationship with money, what I paid, with what state of mind and heart I paid it, and where was my alignment with it. Because if what you are sharing with other people is for a specific reason to help support them, right? Then you want to know that every decision that you make with money supports you. So if it doesn't support you, you say no, and you slowly but surely start to make those changes in your life that brings you into alignment with what we call your quantum emotion. And the quantum emotion is where you're aspiring to be. So in line with heart wiring, you need to go to the highest level of what you can reach for, what that is for you, what you dream about, what you desire, what you think you don't have a right to ask without needing to prove yourself, Rochelle. So the moment you prove yourself, you're canceling out every good thing you've done. You want to align with those things. So the way to go about it would be, look at that list, connect with them one by one. I couldn't say I love money. That's such a simple thing. And that was, I'm not kidding you, a year ago. I couldn't say it. I
mhm.
love money because it's not part of who I am and what I stand for. So I thought I probably spent many lifetimes as a Buddhist, like walking away from money was something, but I couldn't say it, although I've always had it in so much abundance. When I had to create it, it was a problem for me. Everything would just come to a halt. And then there's all these little things in the woodwork. So when I understood that my foundation was not firmly aligned with my income, like right now, I bring my gift to the world, because when I stop bringing my gift to the world, my balance also stop. Okay, that's part and parcel of how we make, until spirit gives me new roles to step into where it is aligned with my financial alignment. I will be putting my effort in this business with my husband and spend all my spare time, as much as I possibly can, bringing my gift to the world in ways that stretch me. So there is a, call it a formula, if you will, that I worked with that really sincerely helped me. And that was what I was about along with women. But sometimes with the work that you do, Rochelle, can be awesome. In your own way, people might not even be able to grasp the depth of what you do. And maybe not now, but the work is out there, right? And people will come to you. If you want to draw the people to you that will help you to be in the financial space that you are in, from the space of what we spoke about today, the win-win space, you want to start making the decisions for this group coaching that you're putting out there to be in line with the financial abundance that will give you what you desire and more, because that's what abundance is, and more. So more than what you need, right? Not to prove to you that you can do it, because that would be the wrong energy.
Right.
To do it from a space of, I share this and it flows to me so easily, I never have to think about that. I just put everything in place so that those things flow back to me at the same, with the same energy that I put it out there. That's where you want to be with this. So um, it's a process. And if you are prepared to go deep, which it really seems to me like you are, as much as you can grasp and understand it, um, you bring the money to the forefront. So it's a long thing, and you, maybe I will in future, but I didn't do the group at the end, but maybe I will start to put some of that information out there in my own broadcast in a little bit more detail. But you want to
Yes.
align with those affirmations, and you want to work with them. So I hope
Okay.
that helps.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, okay,
I'm
ladies.
excited.
That was a
Excited.
really, yeah, that was really a really deep
Good.
and a really
Thank
intense kind of
you.
conversation. And I think there are other people on Facebook Live that are also listening that have issues with financial abundance as well. That almost sounds like it's another whole conversation we can have.
But Robin, I just want to say this. When it comes to community and financial abundance, this thing is going to come up a lot. It's going to come up for everybody. The the one thing that I know about the new roles that we're stepping into is the roles will become clear to you. You don't necessarily have to go create them as the
Mhm.
old systems fall apart, because people will always be prepared to pay for what they need when they need them. That is what business is, right? And business is the world of exchanging of transactions and money. So people will always be prepared to pay for what they need. So they need to see that they need this. People always open their hearts and pockets wide. I've had so many clients who pay me double what I charge them for coaching, because they're so happy with what they get, and you will attract those people to you. The communities will become more ready for it, and those roles will present themselves for you. Our job is to hold that energy, to say no to the things that doesn't meet our own financial alignment, because don't you make a mistake, the energy will always flow back to you. I was very willing always to give without receiving, because I had my own resources, and I cannot deny that. I was very fortunate to be in the position that I was until I wasn't. You know what I mean? So, and things change. So we always have to keep aligning. But in terms of community, in terms of the new levels of participating in community, this is a very big, important part of it. And we must never lose sight of being completely true to what we are wired for in our hearts. You say no to those things if it's going to eat your energy and not equate to what you need on a level that you need it. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for sharing. Thanks to everybody on Facebook for joining us live. We're at the top of the hour here. I just want to remind you we're going to do one more of these sessions. They're really fascinating. We're going to do another one this coming Friday, 12 noon New York time. And our topic there will be the role of intuition. The role of intuition. It kind of follows on to this conversation we're having now, because mostly what we're talking about is being guided to do what is your gift to bring to the world, to the new community. So join us on Friday, 12 noon. If you would like to, you can ask questions, send us questions. For this particular broadcast on Facebook Live, you can listen to it again. It'll be put under our unit section. Um, for those who are looking for more of a process to help realign your worldview so that you can learn how to be more inclusive in sharing your gift without feeling that you're sacrificing yourself, there's another unit that's been put up from ETA to Oneness, and it's already put up in Unit 2, so that you can learn how to live from that space. It's a new way of being. So is there anything else, Adele, you'd like to add before we close?
Yes, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Robin, for so generously putting out those workbooks.
Mm,
Because if people can find the time, and hopefully they'll make it a priority and work through those things, they can, with us, work through the emotional side.
mhm,
And now, It'll help you to connect more to the kind of communities that will evolve in future. And that's what we want to do. And you just got to start, so this is a great way to start if you don't know how else to start, and to know that you're coming from the state of consciousness that'll help you to attract to you. And that's the easy way, attract to you those communities, so that you know when you should participate or not. And so thank you so much for putting that out there. From my side, I said that I will offer something at the end. And what I decided to do is, for those of you who want to get involved in your community, and for some of us, we need to talk to our husbands, boy. We need to get all the stuff out the way so we know they support us and it's not a stumbling block in the process of participating with communities. So there's one chapter in my book, Can You See Me Naked? Whose stuff is it anyway? That's all about the projection and the reflection, and it'll help you to better understand if he's in the way or if he's actually helping you to get ready for the community. And at the end of the chapter, there's a few questions, and that will be very useful if you prepare to work through them. So where you can get it, I'll just put it quickly inside the message section. So it's www.adele-green.com/free-chapter. And one of the things, if you get anything that's on my website, you have to register, but there's no cost or anything like that. It's just how it's set up. So go and get that. It is 10,000 words, so it's probably going to read like an ebook anyway. But get it and work through it. It will really help you. It's designed to work through layers. So wherever you are, it'll meet you there. And if you struggle, get hold of me and I will try and support you through the little steps. Just for the record, on my Facebook page, Adele Green, there is a button you can press that will send a message straight to my WhatsApp. So I don't know if you're familiar. I've taught Robin how to use WhatsApp. It's a chat like Messenger, except it works directly on my phone. I'm big on WhatsApp. I get too many messages on Facebook and everywhere else, so I'm not so good at responding. And I'm connected to a lot of people on social media, and I don't have the time to respond to all of them. So if you want my immediate attention, that's probably the best way. And if the message is longer, I'm not going to say my email address, but I will type it on here so that if there's something else that pops up for you, if you want to speak to me, you can send it to me there, or you can obviously connect with Robin, and maybe Robin wants to put her email address in there, or maybe not. And if it's a longer message than the WhatsApp one, so okay. Robin, are you putting it in there? You don't have
well, all of those on Zoom now have mine.
Okay, cool. So, but I don't want to say it in public because it leads to other emails, which we don't want anyway.
Yes.
Okay, so that's us. Next
All
week,
right.
same time, same place.
Same time.
Oh,
Same time on Friday.
Yeah.
All righty. Have a great week, everybody.
So my Friday is just starting. Well, my Monday is just starting. Wow, Monday. Bye-bye, everybody. I love you.
Bye.